Alright. Well, we're going to do a little something different this week. We're going to talk about germinating chestnuts and chinkapin oaks, any kind of oaks really. I'm going to go through the whole process, my process. That starts by gathering good nuts from good producing healthy trees. These come out of a neighbor's front yard, actually, these chestnuts did. And these come out of a rental house that I own in the backyard. Just a chinkapin that produces really well year in, year out. I picked those up in about 10 minutes today. I'll pick up a lot more, but the first thing you want to do once you get your nuts gathered is you want to float check them. No sense in storing nuts that aren't gonna germinate. So the best way to figure out if you've got good nuts or not is to just take them and dunk them in some water, and you'll see I've got 3 out of all those. I've only got 3 nuts there floating. I try to mix them up a little bit here, make sure there's none trapped down in the bottom. It's really not that big of a deal whether or not whether you do this, because you know all those nuts planting forward really isn't going to be that big of a deal. So anyway, let's chunk those out in the yard. Maybe a squirrel will find them. All right, so we got our nuts float checked. We know that those are good. Let's talk a little bit about oak trees. Chestnuts have to be stratified. And what that means is they need to go through a cold storage period. A couple of months in the refrigerator. You don't want to freeze them. Put them in the bottom drawer of your refrigerator. Keep them nice and cool. You want to keep them moist. You don't want to let them dry out. You don't want to freeze them. You don't want to keep them wet, but just moist. And I do that by storing them in a special mix. Nothing really special. So this is peat moss, and this is perlite, and I mix them 50-50, and then I add a little bit of water to it. I've actually got some already mixed up here. I love these tubs because larger quantities of nuts can be stored in these tubs. But a little smaller quantities, a lot of times I'll just keep them in Ziploc bags. I mark the bag with the species of nut that I'm going to be storing, and then I literally just, if I was putting it in this tub, I would just layer it almost like a lasagna, a nut lasagna. But in this bag, I'm going to put some soil in the bag. You want to not use potting soil. And the reason you don't want to use potting soil, most potting soils have fertilizer mixed in. You don't want any fertilizer in this. You're not wanting, that fertilizer will cause mold growth and things like that. We don't want any of that. We want moist soil. I don't even know what the proper name is, but this is not dry, but it's definitely not wet. Anyway, get your soil in your container. Add your nuts. I'm not going to put all these in here because I'm actually going to layer these in a bigger container. But you'd put your nuts in there, add a little more soil on top. That's it. Those seeds now will germinate in the refrigerator over the next couple months, and they'll be ready to plant. Here's the deal. There's 2 different primary species of oak trees. You've got red oaks and white oaks, and everything else fall in between, fall under one of those. Chinkapins are in the white oak family. All right, white oaks produce a nut every year, and they germinate in the fall of that year. Now, if we store these in the cold, they're going to germinate, but they will store until the spring when I'm ready to plant them. Now, a lot of people say, oh, you don't have to stratify them. You're right. You don't have to stratify them, but I don't want to plant them now because I'm going to lose some of those trees. I want to wait till the springtime. I probably will actually plant them next fall once I'm able to grow a real nice root system. Some of these I'll direct plant, but the ones I'm going to grow in containers, I want them to grow a full year in a container, and then I'll go plant them next year. I'll put those in a root maker container that creates a really nice, massive amount of roots that get that tree a head start. The ones that I'm going to direct plant, I'll plant them now, and I will go out and do that in large volumes, and then they will germinate and they will go dormant, and then in the spring they will start growing. A red oak takes 2 years to produce a nut. It also has to be stratified. In other words, it needs that cold dormancy period for that nut to actually germinate. So you're going to store them in your refrigerator just like they're just like the chestnuts. You're going to store them in the refrigerator just like your chestnuts. The process for storing red oaks, white oaks, chestnuts, persimmons, pawpaws, any of those kind of trees that you want to start from nut, same way. Put them in this soil mixture. Keep them in the refrigerator. Keep them cold. Keep them moist. And not too cold, and then in the springtime, once they've germinated, you'll see a root. These will have a pretty good sized root on them, and you just put those in a pot or go direct plant them out in the woods, whatever. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to plant. I've got about double this number of chestnuts. I've got probably 5 pounds of sawtooth oak acorns, and then I've got these chinkapins, and I'm going to do some red oaks as well. So I've got a mess of nuts to get going. I've got a bunch of these containers. I've got an extra fridge out in my garage just for starting these, and I'm going to get to it. But that's my process for cold storing your nuts over the winter time. It's 50% peat moss, 50% perlite, lightly dampened. Keep it in that bag. Don't let it get too cold, and make sure it stays moist. So that's it. Go out and gather some nuts, plant a tree.